I like the wrap ups.
Yeah.
It's like when he like takes all the facts from the lesson and then he like raps it to a beat.
I like how like when we're learning like in social studies how we get to compare stuff like crossing disciplines, and like in my mind I get to compare like the social studies stuff to like real life stuff that I've gone through.
Okay.
And it's not the bad stuff, it's actually the good stuff.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Tony Jackson, and I am here to help you emerge and break out of boring. So I'm going to start it with a sonnet. It's called Making Fun of Teaching. I love when people make fun of teaching. That's probably the best thing you can do. If you have any real hope of reaching into the minds of those in front of you, then make the learning fun. Help them enjoy. The work should be balanced out with the play, so think about the tactics you'll employ and how you'll manage to make fun each day. And yes, you must make fun of yourself too. Be brave enough to look silly or dumb in front of students looking up to you. It's better they be laughing than be numb. Ultimately, it all comes down to this. What's fun is simply harder to resist. So that is my philosophy. Make fun of teaching. That's what I base everything that I do on. I think it's very important that we don't just get stuck in a box of what we think teaching is supposed to look like. And we do things like this, like what you're all here for, right? We do things like innovate and make sure that we're trying to learn as much as we can, and we're trying to learn new ways to do things so we don't just get stuck in the old, because then we won't get anywhere. Tell me about a lesson, a specific lesson that we did in class that you thought was fun. A specific lesson. Adriana.
I don't have a specific lesson in social studies. I have all of them.
You love everything. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to start answering this serious list of questions. These questions are no joke. Wow. Did they ask you all of these? No?
It's important to have fun in the classroom, because if you don't have fun, you're not going to be all excited and smile all the time and be energized and happy.
I use my students as resources in the classroom in a variety of ways. I think they are the most important resource that I have in my classroom. I start right at the beginning of the year with student surveys. So I try to find out as much information as I can about who they are, where they come from, and that means everything. I mean, that could be what countries their families are from. It could mean where they are from within our city. It could mean what was life like for them last year and how are things different now. I find that it's really important to know about their strengths, what they perceive to be strengths and what they perceive to be struggles, because as they come in to my classroom for the first time, those things may be different. They may shift around as we're starting to get into the things that they think they're strong in, and they notice that they're having some trouble. Or the things that they struggled in that they now notice that they have a real hunger for and they're enjoying, and that they may actually turn out is something that they're really good at, or that they are getting good at. So I want to know things like, what can you teach someone else? What's something that you are really passionate about and that you would love to share with somebody? That starts to get to their confidence, because there are many students who may feel that they are not at the top academically, but that they have something to share. And it may be something that we don't consider to be valuable until they share it with us. I actually have a student today who brought in a big stack of Pokemon cards. Maybe that's why it's in my brain right now. But a big stack of Pokemon cards, and he classified the Pokemon cards by what the different Pokemon were good at. I mean, he might have had about 100 cards that he came up and brought for lunch and was spending time classifying. So that's going to come in really handy. That skill is going to be really important when we get into science. And at the beginning of the year, we're talking about classifying different animals and how are you classifying them, in what ways. So maybe that student could give a little rundown on how they use classification when they're classifying their Pokemon cards, and how we can utilize that skill when we're doing something in class. So I want to know, are there strengths and struggles that their grown-ups have? So I send home a parent survey as well, because I want them to be a part of the classroom community. I want them to come in when they can, and if they're struggling with something, I want to be able to help them. If they can help us with something, then I want them to come in and share that. So the students are a huge resource, the biggest resource for me in the classroom. Also, students that are multilingual. In my class, at least 50% of the students, more than 50% of my students are multilingual. They are teaching me. I've taken Spanish from middle school through high school, and it just didn't stick very well. So I've been wanting to really, wanting to become fluent. And I know it's going to take some time. I've tried apps, I've tried books, but I noticed that the thing that is helping the most is my students. I have my students help me. I let them know that they are my teachers, just as I am theirs. So right now, yo estoy aprendiendo español, pero no sé mucho ahora, y necesito mucha ayuda de mis estudiantes, porque mis estudiantes son mis profesores. So I know that wasn't perfect, but I'm getting better. I would love for somebody to know what it is that I love to do. I would love for somebody to say, okay, well, we're learning about this, and Mr. Jackson, since you love to write poems and write raps, I'd like you to, can you please write a rap for us, to kind of sum this whole thing up? You can start now, and then at the end of it, you can give it to us, and maybe we can send that out to everybody. That would be cool. It's never happened, but I love the idea of drawing on the talents and the resources that different people have, because it's not only the person who is leading that workshop or leading that PD that has something valuable to share. The way that we take it in and the way that we analyze it, what we can synthesize may be something that would help everybody else who's there. So I think that being able to learn from the people that are trying to learn from whoever is teaching is a really valuable thing. And I think it's important for us to consider when we're thinking about our students as well. The same thing happens.
We use puppets in class
to talk through them.
Appropriately?
When our puppets are like the narrator for us, and they teach us in a fun way where it's not like you want to go to sleep. You want to stay awake.
No,
you
not
you want to hear the puppet talking like, hello, oh, yes, sir. Okay.
I model innovation and breaking out of boring to my students by having fun. That's the best way to break out of boring, isn't it? By having fun, by getting excited about the learning, and by getting excited about not just the content, but just the act of actually learning, the act of increasing the depth of my knowledge and the breadth of what I know and what I'm being exposed to. It electrifies me, and I let that out. I let that show in the classroom by getting excited about trying new things and new ways of doing things, and by admitting that I still have growing and learning to do. I want my kids to know that. I want them to know that just because I am their teacher doesn't mean that I am not a student. I am always a student first. So I have them look at things from different perspectives and think about things in different ways, and understand that every time you do that, you're learning something new, or you're opening yourself up to being able to learn more, to be able to experience things in different ways. So one of the things that I find is important is drawing also on what the students are really interested in. And my kids, most of them are big WWE fans. They love wrestling. And I have a couple of students I've had throughout the years that will come up inevitably and say, oh, I have to tell you about Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. It was amazing. And they'll tell me about these characters, about these wrestlers. They'll break down their personalities to me. They'll tell me what was happening around the ring. They'll let me know, what the inciting incident was in a certain conflict. They'll let me know what the problem is and if it was resolved or if it wasn't resolved. And in my head, this is the language that I'm using as I'm hearing what they're saying. And so I've stopped them. I've stopped a couple of students and just said, did you just listen to how you told that story to me? You're using so many of the skills and strategies. You're breaking down the different story elements that we have studied in class. and they have an aha moment and they go, oh, I'm talking about wrestling. And I go, yeah, but you're telling me about the characters. You're giving me information about the setting. You're telling me about the beginning, the middle, the end. You're telling me about the conflict and the problem, and they're giving me all of these different pieces that I've spoken to them about, but maybe they didn't grasp it because it wasn't made relatable to them. So as hard as I try, as much as I try to, I may get all students, but some of them, it may take something else. And this is that something that's going to reach some students if you get into their world and say, hey, look, this reading, this comprehension, these skills and strategies are not just things that live in this classroom. If students just find what you're doing to be boring, they're going to tune out. So I find the things that they're tuning into, and I relate that to the class, and I find a way to make that correspond with what we're doing.
Why is it important to have fun in the classroom?
So, to me, Jacob, it's important to have fun in class, because if not, you're not gonna be enthusiastic about what you're learning. So this might affect your grades and how you're working and how you're paying attention in class. Or sometimes it could make you less shy. Like if there's people who just sit in the back and I was it'll make you more what's the word?
Happy.
No, but it'll bring you
enthusiasm.
I don't know. It'll bring the inside of you
excitement.
I love that.
How you talk at home, and it'll bring that out.
I know my teaching approach affects my students, and I know that I'm a huge influence. They're with me for the larger part of the day, and they're seeing me. I'm presenting things that are new to them. They're seeing the way that I react to situations. So I know that my teaching approach lets them see education as something that doesn't have to be a stereotypical, prepackaged, lunchable version that they might have been used to or that they've seen in different places. And I want it to be interesting. I want it to be something that they want to come back to. I want them to come to my classroom excited for the day. I think having me as their teacher and seeing that I love to try new things, I am always going to be trying to innovate in the classroom. I'm always going to be trying to reach for something new, learn something new, add to my knowledge base, grow my schema. So it makes them want to do that. They see that an adult that they trust is operating in that way. I'm not just telling them. I'm not just saying here is information and pushing it on to them. I'm saying this is the way that I learn. This is the way that I became the person that I am, the person that you love to be around. So this is how I'm growing myself and making myself better. And I'm showing them that that's a valuable way to be.
Okay.
If you're if you're singing "What Do You Mean" or something, you're like, "What do you mean?" And then you know the words and stuff. After 2 days, if you just listen to it, and so if it's a math song, 2 + 2 is 4, you just know.
Your rap song. Have you ever spit a cupcake and here's how or something like that?
Okay. So give me one example of a song from
first
class
you make the
that
number
helped you remember something.
multiply and minus it.
Then you bring the number down and do it all again. If the number doesn't fit, then what's left has a name. We call it the remainder. That's the number that remains.
Okay, and what did that what did that help you to learn?
Device.
Absolutely. I take risks all the time. I take risks I think risks are very important in the classroom. And 2 of the major risks that I've taken, I'd say, are low tech, middle tech, not so much high tech yet. But puppets, I've invested a lot in puppets. I use puppets regularly in my classroom. And I don't know when it was that I became a huge puppet fan. But I bought one puppet and I thought, wow, this would be pretty cool to bring into the classroom. I started when I was teaching 2nd grade. And even in 2nd grade, there are some students who might like it, some students who might not. And when I'm using a puppet, I'm not a ventriloquist, so I just will use the puppet like this and I'll be talking just like this. So, that's a risk in itself. Are the kids going to freak out? Are they going to say, wow, we can tell that that's a puppet talking? And I'm the one who can say, hey, you know what? That's okay. I'm trying to have fun. If it's something that I'm having fun with and I'm not as as worried about how it's going to be critiqued, then that is a risk worth taking, because if it works, great. If not, I'll find something else. But when I do, I may be changing my voice, so maybe a puppet that talks like this, or maybe there may be a little bit of an accent, or maybe the puppet is talking like this. Some stories that I read, the puppet is able to have a different sound for its voice whenever I speak, and they're not great. They're not, my accents are not spot on, as you can tell, but the kids love that I'm trying. And they love to see that I am taking risks, and that's one of the best payoffs, is when the kids see that you're willing to take risks. It makes them a little more bold. It helps them to become a little braver and be a little more willing to try something that they might not have before. I have tons of puppets now. I have puppets somewhere in the teens, and I have them of all different types. So for science, I have different animals, mammals, reptiles. I have a bird. For social studies, since we were talking about the founding of America, I have a bald eagle. Kids named him Liberty. He has a really gruff voice, like a general. But they love it. Now I teach fourth grade. And that's a risk in itself, saying, hey, this is something that worked with my second graders. Let me see if it's going to work with fourth graders, and it absolutely does. They asked me to bring out the puppets. Very low tech, but something that is innovative, because it's not typical. It's not the typical, just present, just lecture. I can read a story, and I can have a puppet read a story, and the kids receive it in a completely new way. Another thing is music. I'm big on music. I love bringing music, and I love especially hip-hop and poetry into the classroom. And that's a risk anytime, because they're things that I create, things that I'm making. It's a performance. Anytime we teachers get up there, we are performers. And it's a risk anytime that you're on stage. So when I freestyle, which is something that I do regularly, I'll have Freestyle Fridays, and I'll have the kids tell me what they've learned. If they can prove to me that they've learned what a certain word is, or who a certain figure was from history, then or a certain thing that we've learned in grammar, or a spelling word, I'll write it on the board, and then I'll play a beat, and I'll rap about it. I'll improv some raps about those things, and I'll connect them together. And it's a lot of fun, but it's because I'm having to think very quickly. It is a big risk that I may fall off. I may not have a word that rhymes, where it's supposed to. But the kids just appreciate that I'm trying. They appreciate the energy that I'm putting forward, and they can see that I want to know. It's another way to assess, right? It's another type of assessment that is not a boring test, where I can say, tell me what you've learned in order to put it on the board, so that we can, rap about it in this fun way. So anytime I get up and I'm bringing them a song, they could say the song is corny, they don't like the way it sounds, but they're surprisingly receptive. And I feel like it's not just my class. I think kids in general, or students, are receptive to when a teacher is trying to make something fun and is putting a lot of passion behind what they're doing.
Yeah, and then
also I like the like challenge. You have to not say like, and it makes your challenge. Grammar better.
All right.
Yeah, and
Mr. Leah just said like twice.
And Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
So like I was saying.
You just said it twice.
I said like I was saying.
No, you said four. Like how I was saying.
Okay.
So like how I.
Try with no likes.
So when I was saying.
I think I've been talking for a while, so I'm going to wrap it up there. I know that you've got some great speakers there. I know that you have some amazing teachers and educators and performers there, and I hope that this time that I've taken up has not been too boring. It can cause you to try to break out of the room. So I hope that you emerge and see that as educators, we really need to make sure that we break out of boring and keep things fun and keep innovating, so that we can teach them that they can change the world by letting those behind them know that they can change the world, by letting those behind them know that they can change the world. And all we have to do is do it. Peace.